Hi everyone, today is Wednesday the 8th of April, just giving you another one of the daily updates. I'll start with some statistics first, and that is that as of this morning there were approximately 6,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19 or coronavirus in Australia. I think there's close to 1,000 in Queensland, and last night from yesterday to today I think there was an extra 13 cases. Doesn't sound like a lot, and I do know that we've been hearing a lot about the flattening of the curve, which is true. It is flattening, and that's really good news. But we can't be complacent. If we listen to the health advice and look at what's happening overseas, the reason we've been able to flatten the curve is a number of things. So firstly, obviously people observing social distancing and some of the steps that the government has taken in terms of the restrictions on movement and businesses and things like that. That has obviously had an impact. The other really the really important thing to know is that currently we've been able to track cases back to the source. So because a lot of the cases stemmed from people coming from overseas, we were able to track and isolate people along that path back to where the source was. The real danger is if we have community spread, that is far more serious and far more difficult to contain than the current process we have in place for containment. So if we look at places like the United States, they're talking about 3,000 deaths per day. Now, we can't even begin to try and understand what that looks like, and we never want to put ourselves into that situation. So look, everyone's been doing a great job. The government's put out advice regularly. The government's made some decisions to put us in a position where the curve is flattening and that we're in the best position to overcome this in the shortest possible period of time. But we should still be prepared that the measures that have been put in place may be in place for some time, because we do not want to get into a situation where we can't control it or it's much more difficult to contain. So please maintain the social distancing and only go out if you really have to, and listen to ongoing advice from the health department and the government. Look, I know it's frustrating, and I know even in my home where I've got kids and I've got grandparents, and it's really difficult for everyone to have to stay inside and stay isolated from each other in our home. We're trying to limit our contact with my parents at the other end of the house. But look, if we do this in the short period of time, it'll mean that we'll be able to return to our preferred way of living and interacting with each other sooner. So, like I said, let's stick to those rules and regulations. Thanks. I want to talk a little bit more today about one of the 5 pillars for improving resilience that I mentioned yesterday, and that was empathy. This is a time when we can better understand and appreciate those people living in rural and remote communities or in the outback on farms. I read a story this morning about the Odell family who live on an outback station in rural Queensland. For the Odell family, this is their normal life. They buy supplies to last a month. They are socially isolated in a physical sense. The kids have to do schooling from home. So their daughter, Riley, who's a 12-year-old girl, she still does chores, she looks after animals, and she does school at home. So this is their normal life. So it's possible for people to live a healthy, normal life under these conditions that we currently have. When asked to give advice to people in larger centres on how to cope with homeschooling, Jackie, who's Riley's mum, said, look, it'll be hard for people that aren't used to it, but they've got to make sure the kids get into a routine straight away. So as soon as these holidays are over, or even now, if we are required to have people working from home for a longer period of time, the first and best piece of advice that Jackie could give to people was set up a routine make sure that it's a regular program for each day, otherwise it will spiral out of control. So for the adults, people in the outback have dealt with social isolation for a long time, but they've learned to use their phone. A lot of people who we would say don't know how to use technology use Skype regularly, they use FaceTime, they use Instagram, all of these things to stay in touch with their friends and family and their virtual community, I guess, to alleviate some of the frustrations of being isolated. We can learn from people like Jackie O'Dell and her daughter Riley, but we can also take this time to better understand and appreciate what people on large outback farms do on a daily basis, just so that we can get food on the table. So it's another time where we can think about empathy and be thankful for and understand what other people do on a daily basis, so we actually have been able to live in the way that we've become quite used to. So, you know, if you're upset about having lost something, the first thing to think about is you had to have something to lose it. And many people don't have that. So, you know, we need to be thankful rather than upset, and be thankful for the fact that we have had the lifestyle that we've come to enjoy for a long time, but also to be that we need to plan to be more appreciative and thankful for when things do go back to normal, and they will. So let's look at it from that perspective, that we can plan for and be more appreciative in the future. Finally, I was asked to explain a little bit more about mindfulness. People are kind of struggling with what that means. Mindfulness is a basic human ability to be fully present and aware of where we are at a particular time and in that moment. It's about being able to be present and not be overly reactive and overwhelmed by what's going on around us. So being mindful is the capacity to be observe without panic and to be calm and settled. So mindfulness is, like I said, a natural process, but we do have to get better by practice. So whenever you're being mindful, you're being fully conscious and aware of what you're directly experiencing through your senses or your state of mind at a particular moment. So you're conscious of your emotions and you're being mindful. Research by neuroscientists is telling us that by being more mindful, we can actually restructure or rewire our brains in terms of how we look at and negotiate our way through the world around us. So mindfulness helps us to put some space between ourselves and our reactions. And that's about breaking down those automatic responses, automatically becoming worried, automatically getting angry. So by being more mindful, life feels more planned and we feel like we're more in control. And this helps us to stay calm and confident when things are not going so well, and we become more confident that things will get better. So being conscious about our breathing, our smell and all of our senses is one way in which we can actually be more mindful. There's a little activity which is posted alongside this video, which is called the 5 senses exercise. So it's about how to use your 5 senses to become more present in the moment. And that helps us to be more mindful. So give that a go. And then tomorrow I will see if I can give you a few more tips on some of the other pillars that I talked about yesterday. So hope everything's going well for you. I'm pretty relaxed at the moment, enjoying the holidays with the family, and look forward to talking to you tomorrow.